The date, November 4th, 2021. The time, 7777. When the microwave starts throwing sevens, it's time to turn the heat on. I don't know why, but this microwave has always done that. When it gets cold in the house, it's like there's the 7 demon that keeps hitting the 7. And if you notice, of course, all the way on the left, that 7 is brighter because that digit is rarely used. This says it's 63 in the house, but I have a hard time believing that. It's definitely time to put the heat on. So it's time to put the 1974 gas-fired HydroTherm boiler to work for the season. May look archaic. It is archaic, but it works. So anyway, let's get everything together here. First thing I want to do is pull my disconnect here, some spider webs, cobwebs, because I'm going to be using that outlet for my vacuum. We can now turn the switch on. Switch is at least from 1974, may be as old as the house with that click, I don't know. For those of you who think this thing looks weird, that's probably because you have a furnace where this is a boiler, and that's exactly what it does. It has a pipe over here and a circulator pump with a pipe there and another circulator pump with a pipe there. This heats water and pumps it around via the circulators to all of the radiators in the house. Not air vents, but radiators. The hot water goes in there. The radiators act as big heat sinks. They absorb all that heat from the water and radiate it out into the room. There's no fans or anything else involved. It's pure convection. But over the winter months, we get a little dust and that. I'm sorry, over the summer months, you know. So I just like to vacuum this first, so let's go and do that. For those of you who have either not been around or can't read, this is my IBM service vacuum, and I'm going to be using that to vacuum this out. I can plug it in to the outlet up here because nothing else is using that right now. That's in, and now I will start vacuuming the boiler off. Wasn't anywhere near as bad as it usually is. That's a good thing. I hope that means good things are going to happen. A little more cleanup to do here. Hit the floor around it and that. Alright, that completes the vacuuming. Now I'm going to hit it with compressed air. Air is all charged up. Nice leaky fittings for down here. I'll connect in this red hose that's knackered and has a hole in it, but works for the most part. China! Yeah, something's leaking nice. Oh, it's leaking at this end too now. Yeah, nice. That's got one starting there too. That'll be fine. That's all we need. So hopefully won't knock too much stuff down. My long blowgun. Hook that in. I hope the boiler ain't gonna say that. Alright, now I'll hit this with some compressed air. Now, I could have just turned the switch on and this would have fired up just fine. But unlike the old ladies who were widows that owned houses, at some of the houses that I saw with what those boilers looked like, it's amazing they ran. And boilers, you know, again, if this is kind of foreign to you, I'm up in New York here, okay, the Northeast. This is common. You'll find gas-fired ones, and you'll find oil-fired ones. Oil is fuel oil, otherwise known as diesel fuel, and yep, that's what they burn. That's a whole other complicated system. I don't like oil burners at all. Had one when I was a kid at my parents' house, and that thing was always problematic. This is gas. You turn it on, the gas flows, there's a spark, it lights, and it works. That's it. There's no computers, no circuit boards, no nothing, no cracked solder joints. There's nothing to fuck around with. It has a standing pilot. The plate upstairs for the switch says leave pilot leave pilot lit year-round. I used to not, and it was fine, but I got thinking, you know, maybe I should leave it on. So I do. Alright, let's blow this off here and see what we get. Okay, we had a tag blow off, so I had to retrieve that. How this tag even stayed is beyond me for all these years. Watts Regulator Company. It's talking about the safety valve, stuff like that. I don't know if you can read any of that. The red on yellow is not that great of a contrast, and I can't read that kind of small print anymore. But anyway, we have to now get down on the floor, all the way down on the floor, and blow out the inside of the burner. Well, now that I'm down here, there's little cobwebs and little bits of stuff that you can't get with the air and you can't get with the vacuum. So we're just going to you know, do a quick, these don't really get hot, or at least shouldn't. There is a flame guard, which is in here. It has been problematic to take out and put back. Last year it wasn't problematic. Only slightly problematic. Not bad. I have here an igniter. China sent that a long time ago. It works. The pilot's in there, it's lit, but it has a tendency to want to go out when I blow the air in there, as you might imagine. I read that whatever thermopile, thermocouple, thermo something to sense that there's a flame can take up to 30 seconds to shut the gas in the event there is no flame. And I don't want to have to test that. The pilot stays lit all the time, never goes out, ever. So I want to leave it that way. And if it does go out when I do this, I'm going to stop immediately and relight with this. But now I'm going to get my blowgun. Oh, it's got stuff on the end of it. That's great. Pull that off. And I use the long blowgun because it helps me get in here, even though it looks unwieldy and that. So I'm just gonna start blowing away dust and things. Oh yeah. That's the good stuff there. Blowing the gas tubes a bit. Okay. And now I'm going to go and stick the blowgun in here and blow off any crap on the burners. The compressor may start at any time, and again, if this pilot goes out, I'm going to stop immediately and relight it. And my lighter is turned on, ready to go, so here we are. Okay, just a little bit more. Okay, that should be good enough. Definitely got some dust and goodies and all kinds of other stuff. Chances are very good that stuff would have simply been incinerated as soon as I turn the pump on. I'm sorry, the flame on, gas valve. One of those. So I think it's pretty much time that we go ahead and get this thing fired up. First thing is to start the pumps up and make sure water is circulating before I fire the burner. So let me go ahead and get out of here and go and do that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and plug the boiler in, and we should get a nice clang, which are the two contactors for the pumps. And let's see, this pipe here, I don't know what's in frame and what's not, is barely warm at the bottom. The pipes on the circulators are also kind of barely warm at the bottom and sort of room temperature cold kind of stuff up here. So we'll go ahead and plug in the pumps right now. Yep, they're on. Let me readjust the camera. I have lights on both of my pumps. I feel vibration. This should start getting cold. Yeah, it is. It is starting to get cold. And that means that the cold water that is in all of the radiators of the house is making its way through the boiler and around. Here, I'm feeling warm still. It was, no, it's getting cold now. There he goes. That's odd because this is the basement zone and it's like the shortest. This one, I think that's cooling down also. Yeah, they're seemingly pretty cool. I'm going to leave this for a minute or so and then we'll go ahead and actually fire it up. You can see the pilot in there, but I'm going to put the flame guard back before I fire it. So let me get set up for that. Might need to get a light. It doesn't want to cooperate this year. Nope, just got it. That's it, and it just swings like that. Alright, that's pretty much it. We're ready to fire. I'm going to go on the other side of the boiler and turn the gas valve on, which is right here, and you should see the flame start up in there. Let me move over and we'll fire. Okay, here we go. That's it. Ignition. Now it's the waiting game. You've heard of the newlywed game, the dating game. This is the waiting game. So we got to watch the gauge. Now, as far as the pressure, I never ever did get an answer to this. I think I had heard that the boiler runs at a pressure of 14 psi. Didn't hear if that's hot or cold. I can't admit water to the boiler because the automatic valve for that is just not. And the only way to put water into it is to go through the drain, which leaks, and leaks bad, and there's a cap on it, and I'm pretty sure if I touch it again, it's going to leak and never stop, and then we're going to have a big problem. So at the top we have our pressure, which is next to nothing, and over here we have our temperature, and it gets to about 200 or so. It's going to take a while. Essentially what we have is a kettle that you just put on the stove to make tea. Now think of how long that takes. Multiply the amount of water in that kettle by your zip code, and you'll know approximately how many ounces of water are in this boiler. Something like that. It's some sort of mathematicals that you got to figure out. Anyways, it's cooking up. I don't know if anything's happening yet. I do feel warmth on the pipe directly above this, right up here, the main pipe there. I feel slight warmth on the basement zone. That's all I can reach now. And it looks like we have started gauging ever so slightly. This is going to take a while. I'm going to cut the video and come back when something else might happen. So as you can tell, we've definitely been gauging here. We're up to 180, maybe a little beyond that. And the reason I'm zoomed out now is because this device here is what is supposed to stop the boiler before it goes and explodes itself through the roof. That is called a hydrostat. I don't know how it works, but it's basically a thermostat that measures water temperature. And it goes into the boiler, and there's been heat leakage, maybe a flame at one time. I don't know, it's black. It was like that when I bought the house. It's been that way. And that is sensing the water temperature. When it is satisfied, and it's adjustable in here, just like a thermostat, there's a thing you can turn. When it's satisfied, it's going to shut the gas valve off, but the circulator pumps are going to still run, because now we have an entire kettle full of water, if you will, that is now circulating through the house, through all of the radiators, giving up the heat from the water that the boiler just heated. Eventually, the hydrostat is going to say, hey, this water's getting too cold. Turn the gas valve back on. And the cycle will repeat. And it will continue to do so until the thermostat is satisfied and says, okay, it's warm enough in the house now, we don't need the heat, at which point it will shut off the pumps and therefore the gas valve if it were firing at that time. We've also gotten a little bit of pressure in there. We're grazing 10, I think. And any minute now, we should hit the cutoff point for the aquastat or hydrostat. So we're just going to wait until that happens. And there it is. Now, what was that at the end? Just like a gas barbecue. When you shut the flame, it does that. I don't know why. It always did. It still does today. But it's fine. We have successfully turned on the heat. Now, what's happening is the circulator pumps are still running, of course. It's circulating all of that water around. These pipes have gotten quite hot, as I can tell from the temperature gauges on there. I'll show you in a moment. And eventually the water is going to cool off because it has given up its heat into the house, at which point the hydrostat is going to tell the gas valve to turn back on. We'll have another ignition cycle, and it will keep heating and doing its thing. So indeed, the boiler did fire back up, and it ran for another cycle very quickly afterwards, and then turned back off. It's going to turn on again soon to reheat the water further, and that's going to continue until the house gets up to temperature much later on. But in the meantime, we're gauging. If anybody had noticed, before I started, these gauges were like way down around the 20 mark there. There it was, fired right back up. And we're pushing, 50, almost 54. That one's actually a little bit higher. And this one is a little bit lower. They've always read kind of a little wonky. These little Chinese things are not necessarily the greatest calibrated things. They're just kind of there as an indication. Is it cold or is it hot? Somewhere in there. So I don't know. I haven't played around with swapping that for that. You know, swapping them around to see if it changes or anything. I really don't care. It's just there as a gauge to let me know. But otherwise, it is firing. There are no leaks. I had a video on these little LED lights that I'll have to find and put a link in the prescription for. There's also a link in the prescription for that IBM service vacuum. Make sure you check those videos out in case you haven't been around. Here's the indicator on that one right there. Just a little tiny light to let me know that they are on and firing and running the circulator pumps. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit like. If you didn't like the video, click dislike twice. Hit the subscribe button while you're at it. And take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.